Hello, my friends. This is Wells Willie from the Williams Family Museum in Elko, Nevada. I hope you enjoyed our past episodes. We have many more that are going to be coming, and I hope you enjoy each one of them. Today, we're going to talk about those guns and the displays that are on the floor as we go around the museum. And that will be broken into 2 episodes, so that would be 3 and 4. And so I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, be sure and drop us a line. Until then, let's get started. This is fun for all of us. Today we're going to start with the Lawmen and the Outlaws. And for me, there can't be a better time in history to start with history than the history of the Wild West when it was really wild. And so these are some of the guns that were used during that time. Now you'll notice that there's a lot of shotguns in this episode. And shotguns were a major value to the Lawmen and the Outlaws of those days. So we're going to have another video on that and talking to you in more detail. But if you'll notice right here, and it's broke open on the top, you can see that double barrel shotgun. That's an original Wells Fargo coach gun. And actually they called them the Wells Fargo coach gun people that packed them, not guards, but messengers. Now I'm not going to tell you anything more about that than that, because you're going to have to watch the video that we make later on to get some more information. This is a pistol my wife bought me about 52, 53 years ago for $350. It's worth 10 times that right now. Well, maybe not quite, but pretty close. But it's 41,357 is the serial number. And she was astounded that I could remember that number and couldn't remember her birthday. And so here shows you the serial number on it. And it is a peach. It came from a rancher out alongside the river, and back in the days when he had his ranch, name was McIntyre. All he hired was gunfighters and desperados. And this one is so smooth that it's sure that it came that way. Has no knurling on the hammer. This was a gunfighter's gun. I'm happy to have it. Okay, come with me and let's look at another display that's really an important display to me. In fact, this might be my most favorite display in the museum, and it has taken me many, many, many years in order to get it. The trapdoor Springfields were really an iconic firearm in the history of the West. They were used in almost every battle that they had with the red man and the white man. And they were significant guns. They had a lot of power. They were very accurate. They were very strong. They were just everything that a soldier could want in those days, except they were single shot. They weren't repeaters. And of course, a lot of the soldiers wanted Henry repeaters and Spencers and so forth. But trapdoor Springfields are probably the guns that really won the West. And of course, that's my interpretation and my philosophy. It may not be everybody's. But I've collected these for a long time, and there's a couple guns in here that are really good to note. The first one is the Forger's model shotgun, the only shotgun the United States government ever built. Enough said. I don't want to tell you any more. It'll take all the fun away from what's going on. And the final one, and the one that I am just so proud of, and they are so rare. For example, the Forger's model, they only made about 1,400, which is really small in numbers when you talk about how old they are. The officer's model, Springfield trapdoor, they only made 477. Now that is a drop in the bucket. Even to be able to touch one is something that's really important to me. And there's a total story behind this one, just that one, when we get into the details of the trapdoor Springfield and how iconic they were in American history, especially during the period of time after the Civil War and up until 1892. Okay, I don't want to get too involved in modern guns, These, all the way up this line here, are modern single-shot rifles, most of them, but long-range rifles, all of them. And they are very special to me because we shoot them a lot as we go on. Now, I'm not an expert, as a lot of people who will be watching this, on rifles that are long-range rifles and so forth, but there's some that I think are worth mentioning right now. These stripe-stocked ones, I think, are really pretty. A lot of people think they're ugly because they don't kind of fit the pattern of what they like. For me, and they're my guns, I think they're beautiful. The first one here is what's called a 7.28 Lazzaroni Warbird. And a lot of you say, what the devil is that? I never knew that for about 6 months ago either. The next one is its brother, the 7.21 Lazzaroni Firebird. And both of them are just high volume cases of cartridges that have been reduced, which were in its parent cartridge, the 338 Lapua Magnum. And finally, I want to just call your attention to this one. This one was a gift from my son to me here just a while back. It's unloaded. This has got an external adjustment scope. It's a 22-250. And it's one that we will talk more about later on when we start talking about custom guns. This particular action is a Japanese Arisaka, World War II. The old scope is a universal scope that dates back to about the same period. It's got a flag's barrel, which was back in the 1950s, and a Herder stock. And I collect everything Herders. And so this one's special to me because it's Herders, but really special because it was a gift from my son. Now, as we move on up here, you'll be able to see that you've got lots of different calibers, heavy barreled guns, big scopes, and so forth as we go on. And obviously we've got some of the ones that are the standard guns for long distance is the 6.5 Creedmoor, which is everybody's favorite, it seems like today. And then it goes all the way up to advanced tactical 308s, 30-06 actively improved. Some of these guns are switch barrel guns that have a 308, for example, and a 6 millimeter 284 is the other barrel. We got another one back here that's a 30-06 actively improved and a 308 actively improved that are switch barrels. And so I love these guns. But my real love is anything that makes lots of smoke and stinks when you shoot it. That's black powder. This display here is obvious to a lot of people. This is the display of 45 caliber and Colt 1911 style pistols, and obviously all these are Colts. Well, no, they're not all Colts. The Colt 1911 was made by a lot of different manufacturers. It was made by Colt and Ithaca and Union Switch and Signal and just a bunch of them. And some of them are really pretty valuable. Obviously, if you know much about Colt 1911s, you'll recognize that the most expensive one to have, and they're really hard to get because they only made about 500 of them, is the Singer sewing machine, Colt 1911. And they're worth bundles and bundles of money. I don't have one of those, but I do have the next one in line, which is a Union Switch and Signal. They made 500 Singer sewing machine in 1911s, and they made 50,000 of the Union Switch and Signal. And even at that, they are a valuable gun. But there's Union Switch and Signal, there's Remington Rand, there's Colts, and so forth. I love these pistols, and so we'll be talking about those in detail as time goes on because there's a lot to talk about with Colts. The next display is a rifling machine that was made by a guy in California named George Therington. And believe it or not, a museum was going to throw this away over in the city south of Sacramento, and I had some good friends that says, no, you're not. And so they captured it legally and called me. I made a special trip up to pick it up. We will be talking about this one in detail too, because this one really tells the story of how guns were built early on. This particular machine probably goes back to 1920, 22, 25, 15, someplace in there. But it is an absolute pristine machine with all of the attachments and the rods and the rifling devices and so forth. And so while we've got to there, let's move around here to this other rifling machine, and let's talk about it just a little bit. It's kind of an important thing to discuss. This particular rifling machine is one that I built, and I built it on the plan of how they were made in the 1750s up till about 1850, and it works very well. It'll make a rifling with a 1 in 36-inch twist and a 1 in 48-inch twist, were the two normal twists for round ball guns in those days. We'll talk about this in detail a lot more in a future video too. But you can see how this cut the riflings at that particular pitch. And so this was really important to the people of the West, because they wanted guns primarily because of their accuracy that were rifled. We'll talk about this, how the barrels were built, what they did in order to make them accurate, and how they finished the guns. And more important than that, how important gunsmiths were during that time. This display, a lot of you will probably be saying, it looks to me like a bunch of junk on a kitchen table. Well, sort of is and sort of isn't. Actually, what this is a display that shows what you would find in the Sears Roebuck catalogs and all the rest of the stuff at the turn of the century and before. And in these catalogs, you could buy everything from windmills to clothing, to shoes, to tools, and guns and ammunition. All that changed in the 1968 Gun Control Act, when things like mail order sales, shipping through the post office, and a lot of things like that were into that act. And so these are some of the guns that were in that section. We'll be talking about a lot about this too. Now keep in mind that you'll see things like Revelation ammunition and Revelation guns. And you say, well, what's Revelation? Well, Revelation was the brand name that was used by Western Auto, because all the big box stores during that time carried guns. Western Auto, Penny's, Alden's, you could just go on and on and on. They all had their line of guns. Most of those guns were made by brand name manufacturers like Martin and Winchester and Mossberg and so forth. But we'll be talking about that more in detail too, because there is a lot to talk about at that. Now this is just one display that we have of catalog guns, and there's more of them that I'll be digging out. So you'll enjoy that one, because it'll let you know how far we have come or how much we have lost in that period of time. There's lots of people in the United States, believe it or not, who collect just ammunition. It's a little less expensive to collect ammunition than it is to collect guns, and ammunition is beginning to be very collectible. So I've collected some ammunition over the years, mostly in the sense of Winchester and its subsidiaries and Remington and its subsidiaries, but ammunition of all types is really collectible. Now, some of these boxes, believe it or not, are empty. And you'll say, well, why would you collect an empty cartridge box? Because empty cartridge boxes are worth a lot of money if it's the right kind of cartridge box. And because it's very collectible, and it adds color and variety to a collector as he goes through the business of collecting. And so this is the table of ammunition. And some of you have probably seen cartridge boxes like this, and you say, well, that's not that old. Well, it goes back in the 1920s, and unless you're a lot younger than I am, that's pretty old. And so ammunition is a major collectible item that many people are collecting. And if you go to gun shows, you can actually find in gun shows people who set up tables and sell nothing but cartridge collections. And a lot of the stuff that they sell is so valuable that they wrap it in cellophane, or plastic so that you don't scar the boxes up and ruin the boxes, which are very important. Here is a box of Remington clean bore ammunition that goes way back beyond the turn of the century. So these are some things that are really important. And I've collected ammunition ever since I was in high school when I had a collection board that I dealt with. And we'll do a small video concerning ammunition and collectible ammunition as we go on. The buffalo slaughter. I've had some people say, well, why do you celebrate men who in the 1870s did nothing but kill helpless beasts, which were the buffalo? I don't celebrate men killing helpless beasts. I simply tell the story of history that took place during that time. I'm not proud of what they did. A lot of their ancestors are not proud of what they did, but it is history. By understanding history and the things that we did that were wrong, it will help us guide us through doing things in the future that is not wrong, but right concerning wildlife in the United States. But these were the guns that they used to shoot those big beasts. Now, these weren't all the guns that they used, but these were big-bored, powerful guns that they used to kill buffalo. Now, buffalo are not extinct by any means. I have a buffalo that you saw in the first video that I shot some years ago, and it took 3 shots of the biggest black powder round that I could get a hold of in order to finally bring that buffalo down. And is he good to eat? So we love that buffalo. But these are some of the guns that they used to kill the buffalo, and we are going to have at least one video on this, probably more like 2, because there's a lot to discuss in this video. And I'm going to give you just one little piece of information that I got from a 6th grade student one day. Came in with the school system that he was in, and he says, Mr. Williams, do you know what the biggest single use that they used the buffalo for? And I thought, well, not really, but I knew he didn't either. And I says, well, was it coats or teepees or leather? And he says, no. They used it to make belts. Belts like you see here. These were belts that ran machinery that was used in the Industrial Revolution. They had nothing else that they could use. They hadn't harnessed fiberglass or soft rubber or a lot of things like this, and it was these belts that they used the buffalo to make the leather for those. And so when he told me that, I said, you know, that little beggar, he can't know that, because look how old I am, and if it was true, I'd know it. But then I looked it up, and he was absolutely right. And you know where he learned that? He learned it off the internet. And so thankful we have the internet and YouTube and other resources that can help young people learn about history, learn about sciences, learn about all the things that they really need to know about, because it'll help them be smarter than their dads and their grandpas. And so that concludes this session, which is episode number 3, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we're going to be starting on episode number 4 very quickly. And I hope you enjoyed it enough to be able to continue to watch, because there's lots more coming. We love history. We love doing what we're doing. We're thankful that we've got you with us. And please be a good American, a good citizen, and obey the laws. Have a nice day.